Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Can I first congratulate my honourable friends, the member for Bradford West and for Harlow. The member for Bradford West gave us a personal tale of strength through adversity, and that should remind us why, as she said, this is the greatest country to live in. And she spoke as a true patriot, a patriot that is there for all of us if we choose to use it. And then my honourable friend, the member for Harlow, we often have a lot of rivalries in this chamber. He, the proud advocate for his new town of Harlow, I, the proud advocate for the first new town in the UK, Stevenage. But he's done so much for Harlow. He's run for a good cause in Harlow. And on this Saturday, I will be joining a resident of Stevenage, Luke Wainberg, who will be running an ultra marathon, even further than a marathon, around Fairlands Valley Park in Stevenage. When I say join him, I'll join him for the park run bit of the ultra marathon. But the point is, as my honourable friend has done, each of us in this chamber, I think, for all our political differences, are proud of the constituents we serve. And that means that when we come together in this place, when we come together in big moments like we have today, we should think about the country as a whole and not about what divides it. And I should now congratulate His Majesty the King, of course, because, as has been said in this chamber, he has given speeches recently of great depth, humour and wit, and I thank him for that. But today his speech to us, as is normal for speeches in these buildings, was very serious. It was a serious speech for serious times. And I recall his opening words. An increasingly dangerous and volatile world threatens the United Kingdom. Every element of the nation's energy, defence and economic security will be tested. How true that is. And it demands more than warm words in response. It demands strength, and it demands a government that acts. Because the world has changed. It is harder. It is less stable. It is less predictable. So we cannot treat security as something distant. We cannot treat it as something optional. And this government is committed in investing in our nation's security and indeed the security of each of us in our own lives. It was a Labour government in 1945 onwards that recognised the threats that faced our country then, following a devastating war, but the uncertainties of the future. Amongst its many responses, it built new towns. It built the new town of Stevenage to deal with a housing crisis, a crisis that we face again today. And in new towns like Stevenage, it provided jobs, security, hope for the future. And some of those jobs in those days and to this day are in the critical defence sector that this country and indeed the rest of the civilized world needs. So security is what we need today, but it can't just be a slogan. It is a plan that must run through everything we do. That's why I'm pleased this government is bringing forward a cybersecurity and resilience bill, because the systems we rely on every day are now targets. Data centers, communications networks, the digital backbone of our economy. If any one of those fails, everything else follows. And so that is why we are also acting where security starts, in the real economy. When British Steel was pushed to the brink last year, this government stepped in and saved it. We protected jobs, we protected capability, and we acted because that industrial base is not optional in a more dangerous world, because you cannot defend a country that cannot build. And as the Prime Minister himself said earlier today, we need sovereign capability to do that. Steel, engineering, precision manufacturing, all of it feeds directly into the defence supply chain. In my constituency of Stevenage, that chain ends with highly skilled workers building and upgrading some of the most advanced systems in the world. At MBDA, we have workers who are retrofitting Storm Shadow missiles, systems that are in use right now, protecting Ukrainian civilians as they sleep. That is what industrial policy and national security looks like when it's joined up. British steel, British engineering, British workers delivering real deterrence. And we need security to be ready. It needs to ensure we have readiness. And that's why the Armed Forces Bill gives us new powers to mobilize reserves and former personnel when the country needs them. Because deterrence only works if it is credible. And credibility does not come from words alone. It comes from capability. It comes from the knowledge that this country can act, scale up, and sustain ourselves in a crisis. You see that credibility not only in what we deploy, but in what we build at home. In Stevenage, alongside those missile defense systems, we see the next generation of secure military satellite communications being developed at Airbus, connecting our forces and our allies securely in real time. But security also must start at home in a domestic field. A national security bill will criminalize the glorification or normalization of serious violence, because when violence is excused or made acceptable, it creates the conditions for more of it. We saw the consequences of that in Southport. We cannot allow that to take root in our society. And that's the same across all our streets, where policing must keep pace with modern threats. In Stevenage, we have seen what proactive policing looks like. Under Project Vigilant, trained officers are out in our town centre identifying predatory behaviour before it escalates, intervening early to prevent harm and protect women and girls. And when it comes to organised crime, we are acting there too. A recent operation targeting county lines, gangs operating in Stevenage saw 19 arrests, with weapons seized and more than £27,000 taken off our streets. That is the reality of the threat. If people do not feel safe where they live, national security means nothing. The police reform bill builds on an approach that will give our officers the tools they need to do their job, strengthening forces and creating a national capability to go after the most serious criminals. And security also means being honest about threats we face from hostile actors. The Tackling State Threats Bill gives us the power to act directly against state-linked organisations that operate against our interests. It will mean that this government can and will prescribe the IRGC as a terrorist organisation that it is. Because when organisations use violence, intimidation and terror, whether backed by a state or not, there can be no grey areas. Prescription is not optional, it is essential. The threats we face today are not always conventional. They are covert, they are persistent, and they are designed to exploit any weakness. And that includes our digital infrastructure, which is why the Cybersecurity and Resilience Bill is so vital. But security is not only about stopping threats, it's about building strength. And in Stevenage, you see that strength in our life sciences sector. At the Stevenage Bioscience Catalyst, Autolus, a UK-based CAR T-cell therapy company, is developing advanced programmed T-cell therapies, and it's at the forefront of a revolution in cancer treatment. That is British innovation at its best. Highly skilled jobs, world-leading science, a life-changing outcome for patients. A country that leads in science, in manufacturing, and in innovation is a country that is more secure, more resilient, and better prepared for the shocks we know are coming. Because those shocks are real. War has returned to Europe. Ukraine has shown us that peace cannot be taken for granted. The Middle East has shown us how quickly instability spreads from conflict abroad to pressure on energy markets and prices at home. And some of those most serious threats are the ones people never see. Cables beneath our seas, networks under constant pressure, hostile states probing for weaknesses every single day. We have already seen this in action. Just weeks ago, Russian submarines were detected operating over critical undersea infrastructure in waters around the United Kingdom and our allies. Let us be clear about what that means. These are the lifelines of our country. The vast majority of our data flows through those cables. Our energy supplies depend upon them. Our economy depends upon them. That was a deliberate act by the Russian state to test our defenses, and we must call it out for what it is. It is unacceptable, it is hostile, and it will not be tolerated. Our armed forces tracked those submarines, exposed their operation, and forced them to withdraw. And the message to the tyrant Putin was clear. We know what you are doing, and any attempt to damage our infrastructure will have serious consequences. Because in the modern world, there is no warning sound. There is no clear beginning. The attack comes quietly. And if we are not ready, we will feel the consequences before we even see the cause. So let us be clear. Security is not one policy. It is not one department. It is and must be a national mission. It runs through defense, through policing, through industry, through science, and through the strength of our communities. It is about whether people feel safe in our streets, secure in their jobs, and confident in their future. That is the first duty of government. And when we take it seriously, when we act, when we build the strength we need, places like Stevenage show exactly what that looks like in practice. Madam Deputy Speaker, we will not just endure in a more dangerous world. We will lead Britain through it, both safely and securely. Thank you.